Well, obviously the big change, and I don't think it's even really debatable, is the population increase. And the shifts that brought. And that's both the positive and it's also the negative. So it's positive because we're the only older big city in the Northeast that has gained this amount of population. And we continue to attract aspirational immigrants of all kinds, foreign-born, non-foreign-born, or born in Baltimore or something that counts as foreign-born here, and that's always a good thing because that means we're still alive, we're still vibrant, people are still coming here for opportunities, and you have to have that. It's also been a negative in that because we don't have a real planning process in New York, and maybe our DNA just doesn't permit us to have that. I don't know, but we've not planned very well for a population increase, and we've not incorporated a new population all that well into our physical built city, and so going forward, we have to worry a little bit about what that's going to mean for a continual increase in population over time. I think actually I think the mythology that's a problem in New York is that that's what we focus on. We're obsessed with this idea that we are supposed to be out there balancing change and keeping everything together. And, that's just what you should be doing in your own life, like with your therapist or something and your family. But I don't actually think physical places should be under a little bell jar in that way. So I think what we really have to ask ourselves is, are we meeting the needs of our city, its residents, its businesses, and its future? And if we are doing that and we're preserving things or we're knocking things down, I don't think that's what matters. I think it's whether or not we're actually dealing with the needs that people have. Well, I guess, like, sure, there has been. Does it really have an impact? I don't know. I mean, it depends on who. Does it have an impact on, tourists with Nikon cameras? Yes. I'm not sure it has a real impact on, people living in East New York. So I think, I would actually like to see a little bit less of an emphasis on that, because I think the important thing is creating places and neighborhoods that work, and communities that work. And that should actually be the priority, not sort of a little inventory of how many, fancy architects came and built a building someplace in Manhattan. And so I think it's a mistake to sort of draw the eye and the attention and the focus to that, while the outside of buildings is nice, and I'm not debating that it doesn't have an impact on what falls into your Nikon camera lens. I think what goes on inside buildings and what goes on out on the streets in the vast majority of the city is a far more important priority. For me, it's more, places that have been made. And so for me, the most fun place for me to be, and the place that really just makes me think about the last 10 years in a dramatic way, is, the 8th Avenue corridor, the Frederick Douglass Boulevard, up Harlem, the gateway to Harlem, from 110th Street, straight up past 125th. If you walk that avenue, 15 years ago, and if you have the opportunity to walk it today with those eyes, you see a transformed Grand Boulevard in Harlem, with people and shops and activity and a quality of life on the streets for the people who live there that is so transforming and so uplifting, actually, for me, both because it reminds me of the fantastic work of the housing department here that I worked in for a long time, and particularly of Ebo Bolton, who was for a long time sort of the legendary planner in Harlem, and just that vision, which has really taken root and is there, I think is actually the most spectacular place in the city. I think first of all, you can't say enough on the success side of a mayor who attempted to take on something like Plan YC, right? Again, in a city that is just hardwired to not think about 5 minutes from now, to actually lay out a document that says, let's think about what we need by 2030. There's lots of little things that people will criticize in that plan, they like or they don't like, but just the fact of having done it is a remarkable achievement. And I hope it's something that will let New Yorkers begin to think about, wow, we really should be thinking about the future and what's the best way to really do that. And so I think that's just like a huge success. I think taking on the idea of transforming the old industrial landscape was very important. I mean, I think, I want to see more of it and maybe in a different way. But we know that we had a lot of our land that was basically there from a 1940s economy. And while no one, obviously no economist actually has a crystal ball, I mean, because seemingly nobody ever knew what was going to happen right now, which I can't quite figure out. But what we do know about the future economy is that it will use less space and it will employ fewer people. So that means that we have to use space in a much more creative way. I'm not sure we're there yet. And I think we have to get our population to have much more entrepreneurial opportunities than they have now, and I'm not sure we're quite there yet. I really think we have to look at who we actually are, not who we think we are. We all tend to have an image of ourselves, and collectively we still have an image of ourselves as the Cleaver family from the 1950s, and it's very deep-seated, and that's simply not who we are. And so, the next Mike Bloomberg is going to be born in Shanghai. The next Bill Gates is going to be born in Mumbai. Our next, President Obama, who knows where his family's roots will come from. So I think we have to rethink ourselves. The white non-Hispanic population is shrinking in New York, and it's aging. And so the future is really much more eclectic, very different, and we need to really get a much better handle on, go and look at Flushing. If you want to see New York's future and think about where we need to be, go to Queens. Don't go to Williamsburg. And so I think those are the things we have to do. We have to create a much better mixed-use set of opportunities in our land use. We have to stop thinking about separating uses, the tannery from the residential building. There aren't such things anymore. And so, businesses are very compatible with how people work and live, and all that I think should be rethought. But we really need to, I think, turn our lens away a bit from Manhattan. In my optimistic mode, I hope people will say to themselves, that was when we stopped looking in the rearview mirror and we started looking in the telescope. Because we have to remember that we're going to need a whole new set of leaders, a whole new set of entrepreneurs, a whole new set of opportunities for a population that has not set foot on American soil, probably. And so until we really get a handle on that, we're always going to be looking in the rearview mirror. So I hope in 50 years people will look back and realize that this was the time that we started to look forward. I guess I would hope that that in New York, people would begin to take advantage of really the tremendous opportunities that are out there for people, and stop just thinking about their own little piece, their own little place. You know, get out, go see many more neighborhoods, connect up with the people that are actually living here and not just who we think we knew from 20 years ago. And again, just, you know, thinking about where we think our future is. And I think that's going to be an important measure of who we are as people if we're able to do that.